Доброго ранку всім. Мені надзвичайно приємно бути з вами сьогодні рано. І дякую, де Леся вже сіла. Окей. І дякую дуже Лесі за такі приємні слова. І також я мушу вам сказати, я вже завжди знала, що Леся сильна, переконлива українська жінка. Але я це зрозуміла ще раз на минулому тижні, коли я попробувала пояснити, що це просто мені неможливо бути з вами сьогодні рано, тому що в мене були плани бути не тут. Але Леся мене переконала, що це відмовитися просто неможливо. Я це зрозуміла. І крім того, я би сказала, в дуже українському жіночому стилі. З одного боку, я зрозуміла, що відмовитися – це не варіант, але з другого боку, це так приємно, чемно, ніжно зроблено, що я ще більше люблю Лесю, ніж перед тим. Браво! Потім ви почуєте від мого нового тут колега в парламенті в Отаві, нашого прекрасного Івана Бейкер. Іване, прошу, встань. Формальні слова вітання від нашого прем'єр-міністра. Але я хотіла тут бути кілька слів від себе сказати на початок. Permettez-moi de commencer en reconnaissant que nous nous trouvons présentement sur le territoire non cédé des Algonquins. Et je voudrais aussi dire que ça me fait un très grand plaisir d'être parmi vous ce matin en compagnie de notre dynamique et prospère communauté ukrainienne-canadienne. C'est un peu comme être en famille, en fait. Vraiment, pour moi, c'est comme être en famille. Le Canada et l'Ukraine entretiennent des liens d'amitié qui datent de plus d'un siècle. Et il y a maintenant plus d'1 million des Ukrainiens canadiens ici au Canada. Alors, à tous ceux et celles qui sont ici ce matin pour participer au Congrès ukrainien du Canada, merci d'être là aujourd'hui. Я хочу сьогодні рано лише коротко поговорити про два аспекти нашої роботи нашої громади. Про нашу роботу тут в Україні і про нашу роботу в підтримці України. І дякую, пане после Шевченко, що ви тут. І я дуже перепрошую. Ми просто Андрія так любимо і знаємо. У нас також є заступник міністра з нами. Доброго дня, дякую вам. I'd like to start by speaking just a little bit and really reminding us of the importance of the Ukrainian-Canadian community to Canada. I am an MP for University Rosedale, downtown Toronto, but I am originally a proud Albertan, and it is great to see so many Alberta Ukrainians here. Доброго дня! Я бачу також Романа Петришина, я бачу Ярза Балана. Так, треба махати, вітатися. And so I know very, very well the deep roots of our community in our prairie provinces, of the way that our community built this country literally from the ground up. And I'd like us to take a moment to reflect on that, because of course Ukrainian Canadians made a very physical contribution in turning those unforgiving frozen prairie lands into the fertile farms they are today. But we also made a contribution in creating the multicultural Canada, which I think is such a key part of the greatness of Canada today. Ukrainian Canadians were really the first significant, non-Anglo, non-Francophone, speaking another language, large immigration to our country. And really in figuring out how to deal with us, the Ukrainian Canadians, that was the moment that Canada really invented multiculturalism. I think we Ukrainian Canadians, and I as a liberal, am particularly proud that the concept, the formal concept of multiculturalism was announced not at all by accident at a Cook Congress in Winnipeg by Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. No accident at all. But even before that, Canada's leaders were understanding, thanks to their work with Ukrainian Canadians, that that was the approach we had to have as a country. And I want to quote a great line from John Buchan, who at the time was Governor General of Canada. This was from 1936, and he was speaking in Fraserwood, Manitoba, to a group of Ukrainian Canadians. And he said to them, "You will all be better Canadians for also being good Ukrainians." And isn't that really a core conviction that we all have here? Isn't it really something, Pane Tarase, proшу встати. Pan Taras is the history teacher at Rідна школа of my children. An excellent history teacher, by the way. And isn't it really that conviction that is the heart of how our community approaches our profound commitment to being Ukrainian, to continuing to be Ukrainian in so many generations, and at the same time to really believing and understanding that by being good Ukrainians, truly, it does make us better Canadians. So, дякую вам всім, дякую нашим вчителям, дякую лідерам нашій громаді. І я хочу також, щоб ми справді усвідомили, до якої міри ця робота нашої громади вплила і далі впливає на дуже цінну ідею багатокультурності в цілій Канаді, в цілому канадському суспільстві. I'd like now just to offer a few thoughts on what I think is the second really big and important focus of our community, and something that has been a focus for such a long time, which is our support for independent, sovereign, democratic Ukraine. And it is so wonderful to have leaders of Ukraine here with us today. I am old enough to remember a time when we could only dream of having an ambassador from Ukraine with us. And it still gives, it still gives me an absolute thrill to have Ukrainian diplomats, Ukrainian ministers and deputy ministers here among us. Дякую дуже. I think an understanding of the fragility of Ukraine has always also been an incredibly important part of the fierce commitment of our community to continue to exist here in Canada. Lesia mentioned door knocking, and actually on Monday night at about 8 p.m., an hour and a half before polls closed, I was still knocking on doors, encouraging people to come out and vote. And there was one door we were knocking on, and I could see the name. It was Maxim. I said to my team, "This is going to be a good door, don't worry about it." And it was spelt like the Ukrainian Maxim. And so I knocked on the door, and sure enough, Maxim was actually wearing a T-shirt which said, Ukrainian Film Festival. Я думаю, навіть по-українськи. So I felt a strong sense this was going to be a supportive conversation. And sure enough, we spoke in Ukrainian, but what was interesting is his son, Roman, who was 9 years old, was there with him and spoke with me also in Ukrainian. So we closed the door, and I was with my campaign team, and one of my colleagues said to me, "That kid was speaking in Ukrainian too." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I thought it was just your family that was weird, that you speak Ukrainian to your kids. But is it all Ukrainians?" I said, "Well, there are actually a lot of us who continue to speak Ukrainian." And we got into a little bit of a conversation of why that was. And I explained that certainly during my childhood, when I also suffered Ridna Shkola, as my children do now, whenever we protested and balked, the answer we would hear from our teachers was, "Їм в Україні не дозволяють це робити, і тому нам тут в Канаді треба." And we had a very strong understanding that, we were the last carriers of the flame, and it was so important for us as a community to keep that Ukrainian idea alive. And I think as a community, we should be really proud that we managed to do it, and proud that our connection is so alive and strong. Дякую вам всім. I find that Ukrainian Canadians are better informed about politics in Ukraine, really, than even most of the people in my own department here in the Pearson building. So I know that this is not a room in which I need to say that while we should all take incredible pride in Ukraine's resilience, in the fact that Ukraine has managed to stand up as a sovereign, independent, and crucially democratic country, Ukraine continues to be under very fierce threat. I think we all appreciate that, and I think that understanding is one of the driving organizing principles of our community today. But I want to say one more thing about that, which is, while I am so proud of the role our Ukrainian Canadian community plays here in Canada, it is so important for me as foreign minister to underscore that Canada's support for Ukraine's independence, for Ukraine's sovereignty, for Ukraine's territorial integrity, is not because of Canada's fantastic Ukrainian Canadian community. We support Ukraine's sovereignty, we support Ukraine's territorial integrity because of the essential principles that Ukraine is fighting for. Ukraine today is on the front lines in the whole world of the fight between democracy and authoritarianism. Ukraine today is the country where the fight for the rules-based international order in the world and the fight for liberal democracy in the world is being contested and will be decided. And that is why it is an essential element of Canada's foreign policy to support Ukraine in that struggle. Russia's invasion of Crimea and annexation of Crimea and the continued fighting in the Donbass is the first time that the borders of Europe have been changed by force since the Second World War. That is a grave violation of the rules that we all established after the Second World War. And that is why we need to be absolutely clear and absolutely unequivocal in our support for Ukraine. And I frame the issue in those terms because for all of us, I think it is so important that we make the case in that way in the broader Canadian context. Very, very important, and in the broader international context, Support for Ukraine is not about Ukrainian Canadians. Support for Ukraine is about the principles of democracy and the international rule of law. I have to say, though, it hasn't been easy, and I really am concerned that it is not going to get easier in the coming months and years. Ukraine is waging this fight at a moment when, and it is concerning and troubling to have to say this, but at a moment when the rules-based international order and liberal democracy more broadly are under threat. And they are under threat not only because of the actions of resurgent authoritarian regimes like Vladimir Putin's Russia. They are also under threat because within our own Western alliance, among the world's liberal democracies, in many of them anyway, the whole idea of liberal democracy is being challenged in ways that it hasn't been since the Second World War. Now, I am so proud to say that Canada is bucking that trend. And one of the things that we as Canadians can be extremely proud of is I believe that today, Canada really is the world's strongest liberal democracy. Yeah, It's an astonishing claim to make in a way. All of my Canadian modesty kind of shrinks back when I say it. But do the thought experiment yourselves. And if not us, then who? We really today are that city on the hill. And that is something as Canadians we should be immensely proud of. But we also do need to recognize that it means that that fight for liberal democracy and the rules-based international order, very much including the fight to support Ukraine, is one that we need to play a leading role in, and where sometimes we will feel quite alone. In that connection, I do want to be very clear that when it comes to the notion that somehow Russia should be readmitted to the G7, Canada's position has been and continues to be very clear. Russia was expelled from what was then the G8 precisely because of the invasion of and annexation of Crimea. Actions need to have clear consequences. And it would be entirely wrong and entirely unacceptable for Russia to be readmitted while Crimea continues to be annexed and occupied by Russia. So that is a very clear position. And it is one that I think our country and our community need to be very, very clear on. Events like this are meant to be celebratory. I am aware that it is just past 8 o'clock and breakfast, and I have touched on some rather grave matters. So for that, I do beg your forgiveness. But these are really serious issues, and I know that the people who have come together here have come together because of your commitment to continue to work incredibly hard on these serious issues. And really just in conclusion, I would like to say to everyone here, thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you so much for your hard work in bringing our community together. Thank you so much for your hard work in bringing our country together. As Lesia pointed out, we've just been through an election campaign, and election campaigns inevitably and quite rightly are about about drawing contrasts. They're about making clear to Canadians what different politicians stand for, and through that clarity, making it easier for Canadians to make a choice. But after elections, it is also important for the people who have the privilege of being chosen by Canadians to represent them in Parliament. It is then important for us to come together and to recognize that collectively we have a responsibility to represent all Canadians and to govern for the whole country. Obviously, I have been thinking about that charge and that responsibility over the past few days. And looking out into this remarkably full on a rainy Friday morning room, I am very inspired about the ability of our country to come together, and very excited about and grateful for the role that the Ukrainian-Canadian community can play in that effort. We are, after all, at a time when our own country can feel quite divided. The Ukrainian-Canadian community is a country that brings together Ukrainians from Ontario, from Quebec, from Alberta, from Saskatchewan, from Manitoba, I don't want to forget anybody else, so of course, from Atlantic Canada, from BC. But we're a community that really spans that regional divide in a way that is very powerful. And Ukrainian Canadians are also a community that has been very effective in understanding the importance of framing issues and making a case for them in a way that embraces Canadians of all political persuasions. That is also a great success of our community. So I am going to leave this room this morning imbued with that truly national Canadian spirit that is a hallmark of our community, imbued with that ability to work across party lines, which I think is also a hallmark of our community. І я ще раз щиро вам дякую за все, що ви мене навчили. І на кінець я хочу просто подякувати ще раз Лесі за її лідерство. І я хочу їй сказати на закінчення про одну сорочку, що мій чоловік мені планує купити. Це не вишиванка. І одна моя тета йому знайшла на інтернеті, і йому це показала. І він вже переконаний, не мені купити, а вона планує йому це купити. На сорочці українка намальована, і написано I prayed to God for strength and courage. He sent me a Ukrainian wife. Нашій громаді, очевидно, потрібна сила, потрібна хоробрість, і тому нашій громаді Бог прислав українку-канадійку Лесю. Дякую дуже.